Hi guys, Jamie from Boxing Life, and in today's video I wanted to give you my tactical overview and breakdown for the upcoming undisputed lightweight clash between Australia's George Kambosos Jr. and America's Devin Haney. Ever since the WBC introduced the franchise champion, it's caused a huge mess in determining the debate around who is undisputed at lightweight. It wasn't helped by Lomachenko taking the franchise spot offered by the WBC, while the loss to Teofimo Lopez would also throw another spanner in the mix about who was actually undisputed, as the WBC had already elevated Haney as the full champion. It really is a mess, if you ask me. Once again, the boxing world would be shocked as Teofimo Lopez would suffer his first defeat to the underdog and George Kambosos Jr. for those lightweight titles, as he put on a very convincing display against Lopez's team, who let the trash talk get to their heads as they couldn't get a grip of the fight.
That's why I said, time, take your time. Bro, the right hand is working. Finish him already. Alright.
Officially, Kambosos would become the new unified lightweight champion, leaving him only one fight away from becoming undisputed. Thankfully, Devin Haney and his team were able to negotiate and get the fight with the Aussie in his home country down under. Haney has made a good case in his last few fights, defeating 3 former world champions, and is continually progressing his experience and skill set. But his so-called lack of power at this level has been something fans and even his potential opponents have mocked. This video today should hopefully help you understand the potential tactics both fighters will bring come fight night on June 5th. First off, let's start off with the unified champion, Kambosos. Before the Australian faced Teofimo Lopez, many did not give him any chance, myself included. Especially as Lopez had just defeated the pound for pound #1 rated Lomachenko and had proved his huge power in other previous fights. However, the Australian is in fact a very well-rounded fighter. His appearance and trash talking may make people think he's a more come-forward aggressive fighter, but he is in fact the opposite and is a much more calculated boxer that looks to counterpunch, use feints and quick combination punches before moving out the way, much like his old sparring partner and idol, Manny Pacquiao.
The power that he possesses, but it's not a thumping power, it's that explosive speed, that explosive power, the footwork he gets in position, and all of a sudden he's landed 3, 4, 5 shots and then he's angled off. A lot like I did in my fight against Lopez. A lot of that sparring paid off and it did shape me. And I know he did put out a tweet as well, saying that I hope the sparring we did helped you in this fight, and straight away.
That's amazing.
And I was so excited. He's a legend of the sport.
The Australian is similar in the sense that he will await to draw out his opponent before firing with very quick combinations or doubling up his punches. He has a very good jab, which is utilised often to set up his quick combos. But by also doubling and tripling up the jab, it helps push back his competitors, which therefore helps create more openings for him. One of his best moves, which he gets off often, is by adding in a left hook after throwing his jab, which often catches many off guard, and I'll explain how you can take advantage of this. Haney tends to use more of a shell stance and waist movement in the pocket. From watching the fights with Lopez and Bay, the Australian will usually look to use double left hooks as they bend down to their right, and is no doubt something the Aussie will try to exploit again. Haney is still very much trying to master the shell stance, and he will get hit more often than not, as evidenced by the quick but aging Linares. For me, this looks promising for the Australian to use his quick hands in those scenarios when up close. Another area Kambosos may try to exploit Haney is his right hand variation. He's extremely good at changing and setting up this punch by going to the body, mixing up by throwing uppercuts, and obviously that beautiful overhand right.
Into a firefight with his opponent. Oh! What a right hand from George Kambosos!
This is something I feel Haney will need to be mindful of in this fight, as he can't afford to be throwing out lazy jabs walking down Kambosos, or he could get caught just like Lopez did. But how should Kambosos approach Haney? Should he push the fight and be more the aggressor, or work on the back foot as the counterpuncher? Personally, I think it suits Kambosos to pick his shots and make Haney commit to being more the aggressor, but also look to push the fight at times when up close. This is so he can start to vary up his offense and also be able to fight on the inside, which is another area of weakness for Haney. As just mentioned, he's very good at throwing combination punches while on the inside before resetting himself or his opponents trying to pull out the way. These exchanges up close will be key for Kambosos if he wants the victory. Now, let's take a look at Devin Haney. Being away from home, I do feel Haney really needs to make a point to win rounds clearly to take this fight. Haney is no stranger to fighting on the back foot, and if anything, is more comfortable fighting this way, getting his opponents on the end of his punches. For this reason, his control of range and distance will be vital if he wants victory in Australia. Haney will very much take his time to pick apart his opponents over the rounds with single shots, counter punches, and quick combination punches. Andrew Ward explains this best when talking about his own style.
Verge told me otherwise. He said guys like you, guys like Floyd Mayweather, and even Bernard Hopkins, you're a pick-em type fighter. So you'll use a combination to get a guy out of there, he said, but you'll pick a guy. Bing, 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 bing. 3 shots, walk off. Bing, pick you. Bing, bing, bing.
For me, the jab is going to be absolutely key for Haney in this fight, as Kambosos does tend to get clipped as he comes into range to set up his combos with his quick hands. Haney also takes a small half step back or a defensive movement after throwing the jab, which can make it hard for the opponent to get to him. He will also have the longer reach compared to Kambosos, and keeping Kambosos at the end of this hand is going to be key in this fight. Haney for me is a much more calculated fighter in the ring compared to someone like Lopez, and I don't think he will lose his head like Lopez did in this fight trying to go for the knockout, and he will look to outbox him instead. However, he will need to be very cautious of moves like the overhand right, and he will need to adapt quickly to the Australian's head movements, feints and rolling of shots, and not get caught up on the inside. Speaking about the inside, this is a weaker point for Haney, and I feel he should try to avoid these exchanges with Kambosos up close. He usually tries to tie up his opponent on the inside and make it messy, which does actually help in terms of disrupting the opponent's rhythm. This could potentially frustrate Kambosos by doing this and keeping him at the end of his punches, which could make it a tough night for the Australian. The final point I feel Haney could exploit is actually landing his own overhand right himself. If you haven't noticed already, Kambosos uses a lower lead hand. He does this to set up his offense, but also defensively to get behind his lead shoulder while using linear footwork. However, sometimes he doesn't have the reflexes to get out the way in time or roll the shot. Teofimo Lopez caught Kambosos many times throughout their fight. I feel this could be a great opportunity for Haney to try throw this punch, as we've seen him do so in the past. This is a very hard one to call, and that is what makes this fight very intriguing. Going off the talent alone, you'd have to pick Haney for victory. Haney is still very much a fighter learning his craft, but he still makes big mistakes when using the shell stance or exchanges on the inside that sees himself get caught. If he has made improvements in this training camp and puts on a dominating display, I feel he has a very good chance. However, stylistically, I feel Kambosos will cause headache moments for Haney as the fight progresses. I think the punch variation and quick hands on the inside, plus the work rate of Kambosos, will be enough to defeat the American in the land down under by decision. It also doesn't help that his father, Bill Haney, has not been awarded a visa into Australia, so he could potentially be without his father come fight night as they try and sort out this issue. And no doubt this will cause problems with the preparation for Haney going into this fight. This will be a completely new environment for him, and if he gets the victory, it would be a tremendous achievement, especially with everything against him. Let me know in the comments below who you have winning this fight, guys. If you want more content like this, make sure to watch my Devin Haney breakdown, or why not watch my video on how Kambosos defeated Teofimo Lopez. As always guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.